All right. All right. Welcome to Body Doubling with Channing. Today's prompt is compass. Same deal as always. We've got an hour. I'll be drawing. You can draw. You can write. Read. Uh, well, we're just together, you know. So grab whatever you're using, your pen, pencil, iPad, notebook. If you can, silence your notifications. This hour is about direction, not distraction. Uh, and we're gonna just kind of walk through it. What I'll do first is I will replay what I've already been working on. Excuse me. Just give you a rough idea of how this piece started. So, my initial was taking some notes, considering, what is your compass, values, morals, and your beliefs. Then I began thinking about, the usefulness of compasses and the difference between them pointing to the right direction versus locating, right? So it's the guiding there versus locating. And then I was thinking about what is an invisible current or the guiding force of the compass look like in our lives. Um, and the uncertainty of the process or the journey, right? So just thinking through what that looks like. What's up, man? I appreciate you joining. Welcome to Bike Dublin with Channing. I'm glad we're all here. So what I'm doing right now is just kind of replaying my sketches, some rough notes, of what I want to focus on. So right now I'm thinking about composition as well as like using the environment to signal what that compass looks like, that guiding force. So I was thinking in the lower right hand, you'll see some like green. I was thinking about like grass or wheat kind of bending to the wind, showing that motion, showing that guiding force. Uh, so just some notes. Then I want to think about where am I going and like what is my compass, right? Because I want these pieces to not just be pretty illustrations, but to uh communicate, really use them as meditations and think pieces for myself, processing various feelings or motifs. And also thinking about what I want to do for the new year, right? And for this year and beyond. So what does compass mean to me, right? One of those things being, the infinity symbol, it's a company logo, but as well as like a mantra that I live by. Uh, so that's a guiding principle and a guiding belief in my life. So here I am, just more concepts. I'm thinking about, what does it mean to like be in water, right? And you're filling out the environment. You really can't sense, you can sense your goal, but you can't see it, but you have to kind of fill it out. So, what does it look like to have little alligators or something in there? And then another idea of sonar. There's a sense of knowing when it comes to your compass, right? It's not an exact, like I said, it's a guiding versus a locating. And this is just more concepts, thinking about playing with water again, then more tall grass, playing with wind, leaves flowing, showing a sense of direction. Then I had this idea of more wind guiding, but using, dandelion, something that could exaggerate the size of to create some, storytelling or narrative. And then I got to this little frog character. Uh, a character I've been playing with for a few months now, consistently. So I just began incorporating him more into the environment. So here I am. I took the sketch of the little frog character riding these oversized dandelions, or maybe he's just small and they're big, whatever. And so here I am just enlarging it and playing around with it a little bit more. I'll let it play through just kind of one full time, just so you can get a glimpse of the process. This is about roughly an hour and a half condensed into a minute. So, and so that's where I am as of right now. Uh, just a quick recap. Just a quick recap. Uh, and so once again, today's prompt or this week's prompt is compass. Um, compass asks what guides you, the inner knowing, the external tools, or the values that ground you. Um, Let me see what. you know, whether it's a literal compass or an abstract symbol of direction, similar to this, I chose to go with an abstract sense of direction, using the wind to guide this character toward, an end goal. We don't know what that is yet. It's unfolding before us. I think that's a beautiful thing about illustrations that we don't have to paint the entire picture for you. I want you to fill in with your own imagination. So, like I said, you could draw a literal compass. You could draw an abstract symbol of direction. This prompt is about trusting what's steady inside of you when the world outside is, you know, upside down, spinning, or peaceful. You know, there are both parts of the journey. I think I want to communicate that in this piece. Yeah, so grab your pen, your paper, your coffee, and let's explore what guides us when we're lost or what guides us when we're on this journey. Uh, some compasses point to places, others point to purpose or feelings or emotions or people. Both are worth drawing. And here's to finding that path, the one that's yours alone and the one that feels true even when it doesn't, you know, make sense to anyone else. We don't need to know the whole map. We just have to know what it feels like, right? And let that guide us. And that's where we are right now. So right now, this little fella is guiding us. So I am using Procreate on the iPad. I love it because I can take it anywhere, All you need is an iPad and you can play with, watercolor, you can play with paint, you can play with pen and ink. Um, so yeah, so now I'm just kind of mapping out what I want this character to, what's happening in this scene. I'm still roughing it out, so you caught me at the perfect time. All right. So what I was doing last was painting some rough, let's add some more direction in here. So I'm thinking about, I really want, he's going forward, right? That's where the eyes are taking us. So now it's just flushing out the remainder of the environment to see what it feels like. Uh, maybe with him going that way, what does it look like for what's beneath him, right? Let's draw maybe a little mountain range back here. Uh, let's just color a little bit, see what comes to us. So before we start there, I do like that horizon, so I'll keep that. Delete this. Delete these arrows. So yeah, once again, welcome to Body Doubling with Channing. Today's, because you guys cannot see my notes, but today's theme is compass. And what does that mean to have a compass on the process or the journey? And so I chose to go with a more abstract definition of it. You guys can kind of see my notes and kind of sketches a little bit. Let me see if I can I'll keep them low and kind of talk you through it as I was thinking it, but as we continue to work. So right now, like I said, I'm still flushing out what this character looks like and what's happening in this scene. I'm thinking about kind of placement right now and direction. So, I don't want to overcome. I want to keep the focus. So I do want to add a little bit more motion into there. So I don't want it to be so static, you know, maybe something like that. And then we'll have some back here that'll be smaller that will just act as, help tell a more complete story. So yeah, as you're working through this or as you're thinking through it, I would ask you to, ask yourself, what does it mean to you? What does what does your compass look like this year? What do you want it to look like this year? What's guiding you? What are you focused on? What's important to you? So I'm doing right now is kind of laying just a base color in. I'm not being too particular. Really just seeing if what I'm liking, where I'm going with this, see what's missing. But ultimately, like, is it telling the story that I want it to tell? Does it have the emotion that I want it to have? And so that's what we're working through right now. We may have to lighten the sky up a little bit. It's a little too blue. Let's get rid of that layer because I'm gonna need more contrast for my for the glasses. So we need to lighten the background up a tad bit. Let's just see what it looks like. Color the mountains in. Right now, I'm just kind of mapping out, what does some mountains look like if I added, some more shapes down here, just to add some distinction. I want to be careful with the light colors because I don't want it to interfere with these other dandelions. So, now this is when we have to think about color and really ensure that we're not oversaturating ourselves. Like we want the eyes to focus. So we want to create enough distinction between our main subjects that we don't lose them. What I've appreciated about doing these more is, loosening myself up a little bit to not have to be so precise on the characters and focus more on the story that I'm telling. The character is more just the hero in the story, but the less important to the overall viewer. I want the viewer to place themselves in these situations. So I want that to be the through line. So yeah, like I said, well, right now we are just really putting together the idea of what we're working on, kind of playing with color right now. Just make sure that what I'm seeing and like, I'm capturing the emotion I want to capture in this. Um, we have a little ways to go. I'm not gonna lie to you, but we're making progress, and that's the name of this game. It's progress. So yeah, right now I'm just trying to figure out this background. May just want to start fresh over here all together. Right now I'm just kind of setting some general shapes, some big shapes. I want to get like a more natural looking brush. Yeah, I like this watercolor. This will be good. This will be good. I want to create like a natural, a natural like mountain shape, just kind of letting the ink kind of do what it does. But at the end of the day, I think I will also, think what I need to do now. Hmm. I want to add this layer on a want to add this background on a different layer, so I'm just going to erase a little bit of it. keep the mountains and keep the general idea of it, but kind of erase everything else so I can make the sky slightly different color. Like now I'll go back and yeah, see. Because I want to frame them a little bit more, I'm gonna add a little more color behind them, darker. I don't want that brush though. Actually, if he's more in the air, there may be more sky around him, around this area. Maybe more clouds, you know? See if I can get like a spray paint or something. Hmm, I like that. I like the splatter, but it's a little too controlled for right now. So 8:55. We've been drawing for about 46 minutes now together. So we'll be wrapping shortly. That's so. I like adding a little bit of gradient back here just to kind of lead into the sky. It's maybe a little aggressive, so I'll dial it back a little bit. Oh, well, sometimes programs crash, and there we go. We'll let it come back, and we'll wrap soon. Maybe that's a sign. Um, like I said, today's theme is compass, or this week's prompt is compass. I invite you to figure out or and explore. Figure out's harsh. I recommend you explore what your compasses are, or what your compass is. Uh, take some time, explore it like we are now. Figuring out what is calling us, what is propelling us, what is leading us. Things are important questions to ask ourselves in general, but also as we start this new year. I think it's important. You know, every journey needs directions. So last week we looked at mapping our path with journey. This week, Compass asked the next essential question. What guides you when the road gets unclear? Um, this prompt invites you to explore the tools, inner and outer, help you find your way, recalibrate when you've drifted, uh, and trust your own true north. I really hope this illustration helps communicate that. Finding what your north is. Everyone can't ride with you, everyone can go with you, but it's not about them. It's about you. It's about finding your way. Setting your own course, directing your own path, and listening to the omens and the voices that lead you along the way. So yeah, if you chose to draw along, feel free to share what you created. Share it on IG, tag me, and I'll definitely repost it. This is a collective class where we work and create together. You know, we don't need the whole map. Just had to know what it feels like when we're on the right path. Even with uncertainty abound, trusting the process, knowing that it'll all work out in the end. We want a little recap of today's work. We started with some notes on our prompt. What is your compass? What are your values, morals, and beliefs, things that guide you? Most of all these illustrations start out in this phase where we're just mapping out some rough thoughts. And so this is a little bit of insight into my planning process for bodybuilding with Channing. I didn't know what I wanted to draw on this one. I like you guys just kind of start out with the prompt and figure out what it means to me, figure out how can it benefit my life and where am I at today and how does it affect me. Uh, and so I wanted to speak to the calling of the compass, your intuition. And so I'll just kind of let it play through. But this is my initial thoughts. What it feels like to be in an unknown in its bottom left hand side. You'll see this figure kind of wading in water, wading in this unknown substance, you know, not knowing where his goal is or not knowing what's next. But he can just kind of feel around him. Same thing with sonar. These things are a sense of knowing. So now I'm just playing with different layouts, concepts, a figure in a field, the wind being the signal being the compass, the wind guiding and leading, the leaves flowing in the wind. And then that's how I got to uh these dandelions. And that's how I got to the little character where he's just following and letting the wind take him where he needs to go. The wind is the compass. He knows that, God is on his side, the universe is on his side, and so he can trust this call and he can trust this guiding force. And that's kind of where we are, and that's where we are. Uh, but what I did see in one of the initial sketches was, have more clouds. I always like that. Change that brush a little bit. But this is by Dublin with Channing. The compass doesn't show the whole journey. Doesn't show the whole journey. It just the right direction. Uh, so what is your drawing point toward? What is your writing point toward? Um, what's your gut telling you? What's your intuition? Uh, one thing about compass is that direction isn't it about having all the right answers or having all the answers. It's really about having something true to return to when you don't have the answers. Uh, so if you wish, share your work. Uh, but welcome to By Dubbing with Channing. I'm glad we're all here. I'll see you next week.